The Christmas invitation came via email, formal and cold. Family Christmas dinner December 25th, 4 p.m. Please confirm attendance. No warmth, no personal message, just logistics. I should have known then that something was wrong. I was 28, living 2 hours away, working in what my family vaguely understood as non-profit work. My older brother Marcus had just been promoted to senior vice president at his investment firm. My sister Jennifer was a successful real estate broker with a luxury car and designer wardrobe. And I was the disappointment, wearing thrift store clothes, driving a 10-year-old sedan, living in a modest apartment. They didn't know, because they'd never asked, that I was the executive director of the state's largest educational reform nonprofit. That I'd spent 3 years developing a literacy program that had just been adopted statewide. That Governor Patricia Morrison had called me personally last month to discuss policy implementation. They'd concluded I was struggling, barely surviving, a charitable case they tolerated out of obligation. Christmas Day arrived cold and bright. I drove to my parents' house with a trunk full of thoughtful gifts I'd carefully selected. The driveway was packed with expensive vehicles. Marcus's BMW, Jennifer's Mercedes, my parents' Lexus. My Honda looked pathetically out of place. Inside, the house sparkled with decorations and the smell of elaborate cooking. My mother greeted me at the door, her smile tight. "Natalie, you're here. Good. Listen, we need to talk about dinner arrangements." "Arrangements?" She pulled me aside, lowering her voice. "Your father and I have been discussing contributions. Family members who contribute meaningfully to society, who've achieved success. Marcus just closed a major deal. Jennifer sold 3 properties this month. We want to celebrate their accomplishments at dinner. Hey, where do I fit in?" Her expression shifted to uncomfortable pity. "Honey, we know you're trying. The nonprofit work is sweet. But you're not really at their level. We thought it might be less awkward if you ate separately. The basement is set up with a TV. You can be comfortable down there." I stared at her, processing the words. "You want me to eat Christmas dinner alone in the basement?" "Not alone, you'll have everything you need. We just want the dining room to be for people who've really achieved something. You understand?" "No, Mom. I really don't understand." My father appeared, his voice firm. "Natalie, don't make this difficult. The dining room is for people who contribute. You're doing fine for someone working at a small charity, but let's be honest, you're not successful like your siblings. We'll bring you a plate downstairs. You can join us later for dessert if you want." Marcus emerged from the living room looking uncomfortable. "Nat, maybe just go along with it. Dad's been planning this whole success celebration thing. It's easier if you don't fight it." "Easier for who?" Jennifer appeared, her expression apologetic but not enough to actually help. "It's just one dinner, Natalie. Don't make it a big deal." They all stood there. My parents, my siblings, united in their assessment that I wasn't worthy of sitting at their table on Christmas. I felt my phone buzz in my pocket. Governor Morrison's personal number. The call I'd been expecting but hadn't mentioned to anyone. "I need to take this," I said quietly. "It's work." My mother's expression soured. "Work calls on Christmas?" "Natalie, that's exactly what we mean. No boundaries, no real career advancement." I walked to the front porch, closing the door behind me, and answered. "Governor Morrison, Merry Christmas." "Natalie. Merry Christmas. I know this is family time, but I wanted to give you advance notice before the announcement goes live in 30 minutes. The State Education Achievement Awards. You're receiving the highest honor. Educator of the Year for your literacy program. The results have been extraordinary. 23% improvement in reading scores across districts that implemented your model." My throat tightened. "Governor, I'm honored." "Thank you. There's more. I'm announcing a $15 million state grant to expand your program statewide. Full funding for the next 3 years. Your nonprofit will oversee implementation. Natalie, you've changed education in this state. This is just the beginning." I don't know what to say. "Say you'll join me for the press conference in January. I want you front and center when we announce the expansion. You're the face of education reform now." She paused. "The announcement is going live on the state website and social media at 4:30. I wanted you to know first. Merry Christmas, Natalie. You've earned every bit of this." The call ended. I stood on the cold porch, looking at my family's house full of people who'd decided I wasn't successful enough to eat with them. In 25 minutes, the governor would announce that I was Educator of the Year and had just secured $15 million in state funding for my work. I walked back inside. My mother was directing someone to take a paper plate of food to the basement. My father was opening expensive wine for the successful family members in the dining room. Actually, I said, I'm going to eat with you. In the dining room. At the table. My father's expression hardened. Natalie, we discussed this. The dining room is for people who contribute. I heard you. I'm sitting at the table. Natalie, don't be difficult, my mother said. We're trying to make this easier for you. No, you're trying to make it easier for yourselves. To celebrate Marcus and Jennifer without the embarrassment of your unsuccessful daughter. But I'm sitting at that table. Marcus stepped forward. Nat, come on. Just eat downstairs. We'll hang out later. I'm sitting at the table, I repeated firmly. Or I'm leaving. Your choice. The standoff lasted 30 seconds. Finally, my father gestured dismissively. Fine. Sit wherever you want. But don't expect us to pretend your charity work is equivalent to real success. I followed them to the dining room, where an elaborate spread covered the table. They'd set places for 5. My parents, Marcus, Jennifer, and Jennifer's fiancé. No place for me. I pulled a chair from the corner and squeezed in at the end, next to my mother who looked pointedly away. Dinner began with toast. My father praised Marcus's business acumen. My mother gushed over Jennifer's sales achievements. Everyone raised glasses to success, accomplishment, meaningful contribution to society. No one mentioned me. I ate quietly, checking my phone under the table. At 4:28, I opened the state government website. At 4:30 exactly, the homepage refreshed with a banner announcement. Governor Morrison announces State Education Achievement Awards. I clicked through to the full announcement. There, at the top of the press release, was my photo and name. Natalie Chin, Executive Director of Read First Initiative, named Educator of the Year. State awards $15 million grant for statewide literacy program expansion. The article detailed my program's success, quoted the governor extensively praising my work, and outlined the massive state investment in expanding my model across all school districts. My phone buzzed with notifications, texts from colleagues, emails from education officials, social media alerts as the announcement spread. Marcus was mid-story about closing a deal when his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, frowned, kept talking. Then Jennifer's phone lit up. Then my mother's. That's odd, my mother murmured, reading her screen. Governor Morrison just made some education announcement. Your name is... She stopped, looking up at me with dawning shock. Natalie, is this you? My father grabbed his phone, pulled up the announcement, his face going from confused to pale. You're Educator of the Year? The governor gave you $15 million. The state gave my nonprofit $15 million to expand our literacy program, yes. Governor Morrison called me about 20 minutes ago. Right before dinner. I told you it was a work call. The table had gone completely silent. Marcus was reading the announcement on his phone, his expression shifting to disbelief. Jennifer looked between me and her screen, mouth slightly open. Your nonprofit, my mother said faintly. The charity work. You run a major educational organization. Read First Initiative. We've spent 3 years developing and implementing literacy programs. The results have been significant enough that the state is funding statewide expansion. The governor is making me the face of education reform. My father set down his fork, his earlier dismissiveness replaced by shock. But you said you worked for a nonprofit. You dress like you can barely afford rent. You drive that old car. You thought I was failing. Because I don't spend money on expensive clothes and luxury vehicles. Because I live modestly and invest in my work rather than performing wealth. I took a sip of water. You decided I wasn't successful because I didn't look successful by your standards. We didn't know, my mother protested weakly. You never explained what you really did. I tried. Multiple times. I told you about the literacy program, about working with school districts, about policy development. You weren't interested in details. You heard nonprofit and decided it meant I was barely scraping by. Marcus's phone rang. He glanced at it, went pale. It's the governor's office. Why is the governor's office calling me? Answer it, I said. He did, stepping away from the table. We could hear his confused responses. Yes, this is Marcus Chin. Natalie Chin is my sister. She's here. I see. Thank you. He returned looking stricken. That was the governor's communications director. They're organizing the press conference for January. They wanted to confirm family contact information in case any of us want to attend the announcement event. The governor's people are calling you about your sister? My father's voice was barely a whisper. Apparently Natalie's work is significant enough that the governor wants family present for the major policy announcement. Marcus looked at me with something like respect for the first time in years. Nat, I had no idea. You never asked. None of you did. Jennifer's fiancé, who'd been silent through the entire meal, spoke up. Wait, you're the Natalie Chin? The one who developed the Read First model? My sister's school district implemented that program. She says it's revolutionary. That's my work, yes. My sister's a teacher. She talks about your program constantly. Says you're changing education in this state. He looked around the table at my family's shocked faces. You people had no idea? No, my mother said, her voice breaking. We had no idea. My phone buzzed again. Text from the governor. Announcement is getting great response. The State Education Board wants to meet next week to discuss your expanded role in policy development. Call me tomorrow? I stood up from the table. I think I'm going to head home. Thanks for dinner. Natalie, wait, my father said quickly. We need to talk about this. We made a mistake. You made a choice. You decided I wasn't successful enough to eat at your table on Christmas. You literally sent me to the basement because I embarrassed you. That wasn't a mistake. That was deliberate. We didn't understand. You didn't try to understand. For years I've tried to share my work with you. You changed the subject, made dismissive comments about non-profit salaries, suggested I get a real job. You valued Marcus's investment deals and Jennifer's real estate sales over actual meaningful work because it came with visible wealth. My mother was crying now. Natalie, please. We're sorry. We should have listened. Should have asked more questions. Should have seen. Should have treated me like family regardless of whether you thought I was successful? I grabbed my coat. Yeah. You should have. Merry Christmas. I walked out, leaving my gifts under the tree, leaving the elaborate dinner, leaving the family who'd decided I wasn't worthy of their table until the governor announced I was Educator of the Year. The aftermath unfolded over the following weeks. The press conference in January was massive. Governor Morrison announcing the statewide expansion, me standing beside her as she praised my work, media coverage across the state highlighting the literacy program's success. My parents attended, sitting in the audience looking small and uncomfortable as the governor publicly celebrated their daughter they'd dismissed. Marcus and Jennifer came too, both trying to catch my eye, both looking genuinely ashamed. The Education Board meeting led to a bigger role. I was appointed to the state's Education Policy Advisory Council, a position that came with significant influence over statewide education initiatives. My phone filled with messages from my family. Apologies, requests to talk, invitations to coffee. My mother called every other day, her voicemails progressing from defensive to genuinely remorseful. I didn't respond immediately. I was too busy with work. The program expansion, policy development meetings, coordinating with school districts, managing the sudden growth of my nonprofit. Finally, 6 weeks after Christmas, I agreed to meet my mother for coffee. She arrived looking older somehow, her usual polish dimmed by genuine distress. Thank you for meeting me, she said quietly. I wasn't sure you would. I almost didn't. Natalie, I need you to know how sorry we are. Not just about Christmas dinner, though that was horrible. About years of not seeing you. Not valuing your work. Making assumptions based on how you dress and what you drive instead of asking about what you actually do. You sent me to the basement on Christmas, Mom. Like I was too embarrassing to be seen. I know. Tears filled her eyes. I can't explain how wrong that was except to say we were shallow and stupid and valued all the wrong things. We measured success by money and status instead of actual impact and meaning. The governor called me while you were telling me I wasn't good enough to sit at your table. I know. The timing was. She stopped, shook her head. There's no excuse. None. We failed you completely as parents. I sipped my coffee, letting the silence stretch. I spent 3 years building that program. Working with teachers, developing curriculum, proving the model worked. I tried to tell you about it at family dinners. You interrupted to ask when I was going to get a real job. I remember. And I'm ashamed. Natalie, is there any way to rebuild this? To start over? I looked at my mother, really looked at her, and saw someone who'd let social values override actual love, who was now faced with the consequences of those choices. Maybe. If you actually want to know me, not just bask in reflected success now that the governor says I'm important. If you're willing to value the work regardless of how much money it makes or how impressive it sounds at dinner parties. We do. We want to know you. Really know you. Then start by reading the full report on my literacy program. It's on the state website. Read it, understand what I actually do, and then we can talk about whether there's a relationship to rebuild. She nodded quickly. I will. Today. And Natalie? I'm proud of you. I should have said that years ago, but I'm saying it now. I'm proud of the work you're doing. The words should have felt good. Instead they just felt late. But they were a start. Time would tell if my family could learn to value substance over performance, impact over image. Time would tell if they actually wanted to know me or just wanted to be associated with someone the governor praised. For now, I had work to do, programs to expand, policies to develop, students to help. The family who'd sent me to the basement on Christmas would have to earn their way back into my life. And maybe, eventually, they would. Or maybe I'd be fine either way. I'd already proven I didn't need their approval to matter.